You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep. My faith will stand. My soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours. You are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Feet may fail and fear surrounds me. You've never failed, and you won't stop now. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul my soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours, and you are mine.
Biological diversity. Biodiversity is a term used to describe the enormous variety of life on Earth. It can be used more specifically to refer to all the species in one region or ecosystem. Biodiversity refers to every living thing, including plants, bacteria, animals, and humans. Scientists have estimated that there are around 8.7 million species and plants and animals in existence. However, only around 1.2 million species have been identified and described so far, most of which are insects. This means that millions of other organisms remain a complete mystery. The United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity is the international legal instrument for the conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of its components, and the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources that has been ratified by 196 nations. Its overall objective is to encourage actions which will lead to a sustainable future. The conservation of biodiversity is a common concern of humankind. The Convention on Biological Diversity covers biodiversity at all levels, ecosystems, species, and genetic resources. It also covers biotechnology, including through the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. In fact, it covers all possible domains that are directly or indirectly related to biodiversity and its role in development, ranging from science, politics, and education to agriculture, business, culture, and much more. The Philippines is considered a mega diversity country rivaled only by a few countries in the world when it comes to variety of ecosystems, species, and genetic resources. Many of the islands comprising the archipelago are believed to have a very high degree of land and animal species endemism, covering at least 25 genera of plants and 50% of terrestrial wildlife. The country hosts more than 52,177 described species, of which more than half is found nowhere else in the world. On a per unit area basis, the Philippines probably harbors more diversity of life than any other country on the planet. From 1997 to 2016, 120 species of wildlife fauna and 170 species of wildlife flora has been discovered, and the number is still increasing with studies conducted by the academy, researchers, and biodiversity-related funded projects.
The three types of biological diversity. Number one, the genetic diversity. It is basically the variety of species expressed at the genetic level by each individual in a species. No two individuals belonging to the same species are exactly similar. For example, in the species of human beings, each human shows a lot of diversity in comparison to another human. People living in different regions shows a great level of variation. Number two, the species diversity. It is the biodiversity observed within a community. It stands for the number and distribution of species. The number of species in a region varies widely depending upon the varied environmental conditions. For example, it is usually observed that civilizations residing beside water bodies show more species than the one compared to the areas away from the water bodies. Number three, ecological diversity, which refers to variability in habitats within a geographic area. Unlike genetic diversity and species diversity, ecological diversity considers both biological drivers and non-biological drivers of variability, like temperature and sunlight. Areas high in ecological diversity create a geographic mosaic of communities that help protect an entire area from drastic changes. So we have here the habitat and the ecosystem. What is a habitat? A habitat, by definition, is the environmental or the ecological area in which an organism inhabits. In other words, habitat is the natural environment that occupies by an animal, a plant, or any other organism. Habitat surrounds a population of one species and it determines the distribution of that particular species. An organism or a population naturally prefer to live in a particular environment when it is full of resources for them. Then that particular environment becomes their habitat eventually. Ecosystem, on the other hand, is a whole functional unit of biological and physical entities of certain defined area or a volume. It describes the interrelationships between living organisms as well as relationships between living organisms and non-living physical environment. Also, the size of an ecosystem could vary from a bark of a dead tree up to a massive rainforest or an ocean. Furthermore, small fish tank also can be an ecosystem. But if it is an artificial ecosystem, hence an ecosystem could be either natural or man-made. However, the natural ecosystem lasts for a longer period of time, maybe for forever, since there are self-sustaining mechanisms executing within the ecosystems.
The importance of biodiversity. It supports healthy ecosystems. It is an essential part of the solution to climate change. It is good for the economy. It is an integral part of culture and identity. It provides raw materials like lumber, food, spices, etc. It also provides opportunities for recreational activities such as bird watching, scuba diving, snorkeling, and nature photography. Lastly, it serves as the source of medicine. What do we get from biodiversity? We have here the following such as oxygen, food, clean water, medicine, aesthetics, lumber, and ideas.
The status of Philippine biodiversity. The Philippines is one of 18 mega biodiverse countries of the world, containing two-thirds of the Earth's biodiversity and with between 70% and 80% of the world's plant and animal species. The Philippines ranks 5th in the number of plant species and maintains 5% of the world's flora. Species endemism is very high, covering at least 25 genera of plants and 49% of terrestrial wildlife, while the country ranks 4th in bird endemism. The Philippines is also one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, with at least 700 threatened species, thus making it one of the top global conservation areas. The National List Threatened Faunal Species was established in 2004 and it includes 40 species of land mammals, 127 species of birds, 24 species of reptiles, and 14 species of amphibians. In terms of fishes, the Philippines counts at least 3,214 species, of which about 121 are endemic and 76 threatened. In 2007, an administrative order issued by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources established a national list of threatened plant species, indicating that 99 species were critically endangered, 187 were endangered, 176 vulnerable, as well as 64 other threatened species. For the list of identified endemic species, we have number 1, Rafflesia manilana, the world's largest flower. Number 2, Vanda sanderiana, or waling-waling, one of the world's largest orchid species. Number 3, Pithecopaga jefferyi, or monkey-eating eagle, the largest bird. Number 4, Rhynchodon typus, the largest fish. Number 5, Tridacna gigas, or giant clam, the largest seashell. Number 6, Pandaka pygmaea, or dwarf goby, the smallest freshwater fish. Number 7, Tarsius rictra, or tarsier, the smallest primate. Number 8, Tragulus nigricans, the smallest hoofed mammal. Number 9, Tilonectris pactus, or bamboo bat, the smallest bat. Number 10, Pisidium, or the tiniest shell in the world. Number 11, Conis gloria maris, one of the most expensive shells in the world. Number 12, Cervus alfredi, the most endangered deer. Number 13, Babulus mindorenis, or tamarau, or dwarf water buffalo, one of the top 10 most endangered species in the world and the largest endangered animal.
Threats to biodiversity. Number 1. We have here environmental pollution. Domestic agriculture and industrial wastes are fully treated and are often discharged into the sea and to the other bodies of water such as river and lakes. Pollution can lead to disease and pollution stresses such as coral bleaching on reefs. Number 2. We have here overexploitation, overhunting, overharvesting, and overfishing. Commercial logging, community logging, timber poaching, and kaingin in mangrove ecosystem, the extraction of fuel in construction. Number 3. We have here habitat loss, habitat destruction, and habitat alteration. In coral reefs, coastal development, aquaculture, agriculture, and land cover change increasing sediment of nutrient outflow of reefs, and the Moromi technique, the development of fish pond in a mangrove forest. Number 4. We have here climate change. Drastic changes in atmosphere can have catastrophic effects such as increased concentration of greenhouse gases and destruction of the forest. Number 5. We have invasive species or non-native species Invasive species are a great threat to the native biodiversity than pollution, harvest, and disease combined. It can cause alteration either within species group or within the environment.
Underlying causes of the loss of the Philippine biodiversity. The first one is the population growth and increasing resources consumption. The population of the Philippines stands at roughly 102 million, and 27 million of this number live below poverty line. Moreover, 13.5 million of the economically poor are unable to eat 3 times a day, with 2.7 million families experiencing involuntary hunger at least once in the past 3 months. Despite this challenge, in terms of hunger and food security, it has also been estimated that Filipino waste up to 308,000 tons of rice every year in Metro Manila. 2,175 tons of foods end up in trash bins daily. Second is ignorance about species and ecosystem. Most of us are still ignoring intentionally or unintentionally the harm we commit against our vital nature environment. The next is poorly conceived policies and poor law enforcement. The next one is effect of global trading system. Mainstream economic throughout holds that world trade benefits all parties involved. However, trade has a downside as well. The negative effect of global trading include lost jobs and greater wage inequality. Next one is inequity of resource distribution. It can cause the poverty, hunger, homelessness, illiteracy, preventable disease, polluted air and water, and most of the other ills that beset the humanity have the same root cause. And lastly, the apathy or failure to account for the value of biodiversity. The Philippines is experiencing a very high rate of biodiversity loss, indicated by a phenomenal decline in quality and numbers of habitats such as the forest, coral reefs, and mangroves. This loss has deleterious impacts on the long-term sustainability of the community livelihood system.
Genetically modified organism. Worldwide, over 191 million hectares have been planted with genetically modified crops as of 2018, particularly herbicide and pest resistance canola, cotton, corn, and soybeans. The United States had the largest area worldwide of GM crops, followed by Brazil, Argentina, Canada, and India by Chavande 2019. Fun facts: the first commercially available GM food was called the Flavor Saver tomato that had anti-sense gene that increased its shelf life and delayed ripening by Brewing and Lyons 2000. Designed by researchers at Calgenes, now a division of Monsanto Incorporation, Monsanto is the leading company in genetically modified crops based on revenue. GMO or genetically modified organism are organisms whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques, which is direct manipulation of an organism genome. According to the World Health Organization 2004, GMO are organisms, either plant or animal or microorganism, in which the genetic material or the DNA has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally by mating or natural recombination. The development of GMO was perceived to help in the advancements of technology for the benefits of humans in different industries like agriculture and medicine.
BT corn is a variant that has been genetically altered to express more proteins from Bacillus thuringiensis, which produces a bacterial toxin including delta toxin. Bacillus thuringiensis is a bacterium found in soil that are toxic to some insects when eaten but not others. The era of BT had its beginning in 1901. A Japanese scientist named Shigeta Ishiwata isolated a bacterium from dead silkworm larvae. While he was investigating the cause of the so-called Soto disease, that disease was responsible for the loss of large numbers of silkworm in Japan. A few years thereafter, in 1911, a German scientist, Ernst Berliner, isolated a related strain from dead Mediterranean floor moth larvae in the German state Thuringia. He named the organism Bacillus thuringiensis. That bacterium has been used as an insecticide since 1938. Susceptible insects must ingest Bt toxin in order to be affected, in contrast to poisonous insecticides that targets the nervous system.